Congress can't do anything, including making sure that we have paid our bills and get that budget together for the end of November. I bet Steve Moore has something to say about it. He joins us now. He's a distinguished fellow in economics at the Heritage Foundation and author of Govzilla. Steve, welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. It's good to have you.
Hey, Annie, it's so good to be with you. And yeah, there sure is a lot of chaos going on in the world right now, isn't there? And
Yeah.
it's just a, really disturbing time for our country right now and for world events. And so, I feel kind of a little depressed about the situation because it didn't have to be like this.
Yeah, that is true. There are times where countries are going to need to come together and they're going to need to spend money to make sure that they can provide for the common defense. We have really taken a lot of liberties in the time to come together and spend a lot of money, but the House doesn't even have the ability to pass any bills right now. What is your position, economically speaking, on the ramifications of not having a speaker?
Look, I mean, it creates a little bit of a turbulence, no question about it. And I agree with what Newt Gingrich said. I'm not quite as harsh with those people who voted against McCarthy, but I think it was a big mistake. And McCarthy was a good speaker. I think that Jim Jordan would have been a good speaker. I think Steve Scalise would have been a good speaker. And the Republicans have a problem now. They just can't get to 217 for anybody, and that's just playing right into the hands of the Democrats. Meanwhile, you've got this situation in the Middle East, and day after day after day, we're learning more and more that Biden was basically just appeasing both Iran and, obviously the groups that Iran funds, which is Hamas, and it has led to this international massacre that didn't have to happen. I mean, it would not have happened if Donald Trump were president. That is simply a fact. There's no way that Hamas would have had the money because whether you like Donald Trump or not, Donald Trump defunded Iran. And we were producing, remember, how many times have I talked about this on your show, Annie, over the last couple of years, that Trump was all in on producing every possible barrel of oil we could, not just because it was good for our economy, which of course it was, but because it was a great way to take money away from Vladimir Putin, who's a major oil exporter, and Iran. And I just did an analysis in our hotline. I know you get that every morning, Annie. And we estimate that because of Biden's energy policies, we put, and this is a conservative estimate, some people think we're lowballing it, that at least $40 billion that should have been produced in state of the United States went to Iran. And, of course, Iran gave a lot of that money to Hamas. And you can build a whole hell of a lot of rockets with $40 billion.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the policies, especially when it comes to economically enriching our country and defensively, when you talk about what the Trump administration did, they did a lot of economic warfare. When you think about Joe Biden's day one initiative of stopping our pipelines here and then blessing the pipelines, I mean, the amount of money that Iran, I heard today, I think maybe I'm getting this right, that they make $1 billion a week on the oil that they are producing
in Iran. That's probably pretty close. Yeah, it might be a little bit high, but it's pretty close. And that's a lot of money, week after week after week. And, what we need to do, that the most important thing we should do, if I were advising Joe Biden, stop with the green energy nonsense, okay? The biggest worry right now in the world is not climate change. We can worry about that 50 years from now. What we have to worry about right now is the safety of the planet. We have to worry about the fact that people can't afford, that the people are struggling financially in this country. We have to worry about the fact that we have a border that's completely out of control. I mean, I'm a little angry, frankly, right now, because these were self-inflicted wounds, Annie. Yeah. It was all a result of dingbat policies coming out of the White House. Oh, we're not going to enforce the border. Oh, we're not going to produce American energy. Oh, we're going to run the budget debt through the roof. I mean, these things were crazy. And the chickens are coming home to roost. America, wake up.
Yeah, we have 384 days until we get to elect a new president. And I'd imagine there's a lot of dramatic policy changes that can be implemented day one, economically speaking as well, that could get this country back on track and quickly.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, as you know, I'm a Trump guy and I'm helping Trump in this reelection and talk to him pretty regularly. But we've got a great field of candidates. I mean, I had I think that Ron DeSantis has been a fantastic governor. I think that you've got Nikki Haley, who's been a brilliant foreign policy person. I had dinner the other night with Doug Burgum, the governor of North Dakota. Brilliant guy, businessman, successful. He gets it. This stuff is not complicated, Annie. It's not. It's not like it's putting together a Rubik's Cube to figure out what we have to do to turn this country around. But I don't see Biden even changing his policies in light of what's happened in the last couple of weeks.
Well, the Bidenomics. I mean, he grabbed the name and started to turn it into a good thing. I saw on your Twitter account you call out economist Paul Krugman talking about how inflation is over. You said except for groceries and medicine and gas and utilities and mortgage, but we're not talking about the common American here. Good grief, who are they talking to, and what reality are they living in?
Yeah, no, I mean that's a really good point, and thank you for we got a lot of response from that, but. Yeah, when I go shopping once in a while with my wife or just on this, people do get angry. They say, you're citing the government statistics on inflation, but most Americans think that their own inflation that they're facing because when they go to the grocery store or the gas pump or when they have to, buy an airline ticket, these things are up 20, 25, 30%, not 5%.
Yeah, it's punitive. I was at a fundraiser, a big fundraiser. It's an annual fundraiser, and they noticed that people were not being as generous with their expendable income on these different types of things that they were doing to raise money because everybody's purse is a little bit tighter right now.
I noted, our household is, and by the way, we have to be.
Right. Because
what's been happening for the last 18 months or so, and we know the statistics, how are people maintaining their living standards? They're borrowing more. They're borrowing, this, $1 trillion of credit card debt out there right now, an all-time record. That can't go on. We're not like the federal government. We can't just borrow and borrow and borrow till kingdom come. There's no modern monetary theory for, individual households. And so, this is a kind of a scary situation because not only do we have households, in debt now, but of course we have a U.S. government that borrowed $2 trillion last year. And now we're going to have to, it looks like we're going to have to spend a lot of money on beefing up our military. Where's that money going to come from?
The same printing press, I suppose. Steve, we appreciate you. I mentioned Bidenomics before. I must also mention Trumponomics, which is a literal book that you have written, and we hope that you have the opportunity to advise President Trump once again so we get this country back on track.
What we need, Annie, is Trumponomics Part 2.
Yeah.
And that may be coming.
Let's from your lips to God's ears, Steve Moore. We appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Take care.
He's well. Bye-bye. He's a distinguished fellow in economics at the Heritage Foundation. He talked about the hotline there. I encourage you to go to the website, committeetounleashprosperity.com. You can sign up for that daily hotline, and it is a great piece that he puts out daily.